Ladies and gentlemen, Behind the Line proudly presents to you another exciting edition of the Woke, turning on the woke. This episode is brought to you by Unlimited Beards. Are you a woman who aspires to be a man and you're struggling to grow facial hair? Perhaps that feminine beard is growing in a color that you don't prefer. If this is you, have no fear, contact Unlimited Beards. Our products are uniquely designed to make women appear more masculine. After 6 weeks of use, we guarantee that Jill will look like Bill. What are you waiting for? Head over to iwanttobeaman.com. Start your transformation process today. You know, how long have I been saying that one of the biggest problems in the WNBA is this false sense of entitlement that is prevalent amongst the players? How long have we been talking about this here on the channel? 2 years? 3 years? Now, I don't like entitlement when it comes to NBA players, but at least they have an excuse. At least they have a reason to feel entitled. I might not like it, but on some level, I can at least understand it. Superstar players in the NBA, they've already made it to the top. But when you're in the WNBA, when you're a league that is positioned at the bottom, entitlement is a luxury that you cannot afford. Besides the substandard product on the court, entitlement is one of the main reasons that the WNBA is a huge embarrassing failure. Throughout their 27-year history, one of the biggest complaints amongst WNBA dump divers is the lack of attention they receive from the mainstream media. Why are we ignored? Our product is different. You can't find this anywhere else. Where else can you see women with 5 o'clock shadows, airball dunks with the assistance of a trampoline? Now, to be completely fair, for the better part of maybe 2 decades, this was a legitimate complaint in the WNBA. Back in the late 90s, early 2000s, the WNBA Finals, it was pulling over 1 million viewers. Now, this was during a time when they had actual basketball players, women like Lisa Leslie, Cheryl Swoops. They were performing well on television, but they were completely ignored by the media. For the longest time, the failure of the WNBA, it was blamed on their lack of media coverage. But that excuse is no longer valid. Over the last 3 years, the mainstream media has bent over backwards to provide coverage of the dump. ESPN heavily promotes the WNBA. They even refer to it as basketball. ABC features live footage of the dump throughout the regular season. Washington Post, New York Times, USA Today. For 3 years, the mainstream media has been begging. They have been begging us to give the WNBA a chance. With dump divers begging for years to capture the attention of the mainstream media, this increased media coverage should temper these complaints, right? There should be no more complaints in the WNBA about a lack of media coverage, right? Come on, guys. You know better than that. I know the media refers to them as professional pretend basketball players, but the real title given to employees of the dump is professional complainers. Headline at the Washington Post: as WNBA grows, so does the tension between the players and the media. Now, this headline is very misleading for a couple of reasons. Number one, the WNBA is not growing. Well, Casey, that's not true. Ratings for the WNBA Finals were the highest they've been in 20 years. Yeah. Well, here on the channel, we don't celebrate going from nothing to almost nothing. The 2023 WNBA Finals. This was supposed to be the matchup that propelled this league to mainstream success and recognition. That's what the media was telling us. I even saw predictions that the dump was going to draw over 1 million viewers for the WNBA Finals. Back to life, back to reality. The reality is they didn't come close. Number two, there is tension between WNBA players and the mainstream media, but what this headline from the Washington Post should have said was, WNBA players are refusing to speak with the mainstream media. That doesn't make any sense. For years, these players have been begging for attention. They've been begging to be noticed. These trash engineers, they are tired of walking through airports and having people approach them to notify them that the trash can is full. They want to be approached in the airport and ask for an autograph. According to the Washington Post, WNBA teams refused to allow the media inside of locker rooms last season. The handful of reporters who are willing to cover this dump, they are forced to deal with the public relations department to facilitate one-on-one interviews with players. No one is going to do that. Several reporters, they have been told by WNBA teams that they are bad for the league. Their access has been rejected because the team has decided they're bad for the league. Why? Because they're not covering the dump the way the dump wants to be covered. Translation, they are not writing glowing pieces lying about the amazing action the WNBA offers. They're not lying to their readers by claiming that WNBA games are sold out when the arena is filled to 30% capacity. According to the Washington Post, which for those of you that don't know, it doesn't get more woke than the Washington Post. This article wasn't some hit piece written by a conservative media outlet that agrees with the vast majority of normal people that the WNBA is trash. The Washington Post, they are sympathetic to the dump. They want to see the dump succeed. According to the Washington Post, WNBA players, they will only speak to media members, reporters, who cover them positively. They are refusing to speak to reporters who are critical of the league. They are refusing to speak to reporters who refuse to comply with their demands. That's just not how it works. You have been begging for media coverage for years. If you want the media to cover your league, you got to take the good with the bad. The NBA doesn't restrict the media. Now, I'm sure there have been times in the past where the NBA has used its influence to get the media to not print a story, but those instances are few and far between. The thing is, though, the NBA has the influence to do that. The WNBA doesn't have any influence. You are literally at the bottom. Now, another complaint from WNBA players was the type of media that is covering the league. Dump divers are complaining because the media credentials, they are being given to part-time journalists. Media credentials are being given to fan-driven websites. Now, I'm assuming these are sites like Fansided, where fans are paid pennies on the dollar to write articles. Basically, WNBA players are complaining that high-profile professional journalists are not covering their league. They're having to deal with basement dwellers, basically, of the media. You know, beggars can't be choosers. You are not going to get high-profile writers to waste their time covering your league. Why? Because it doesn't make them any money. Why would Shams Charania waste his time in the dump when he's making millions of dollars covering the NBA? The WNBA, they should be accepting any media coverage they can get. Your league is garbage. It's trash. So naturally, you're going to get reporters who are covering garbage to work their way up. Right now, there's only two mainstream media outlets that offer full coverage of the WNBA. KC, I bet one of them is ESPN. Now, I understand why you would think that. ESPN claims to be the home of the dump, but they're not wasting valuable resources covering a league that no one gives a shit about. The two media outlets that offer full coverage, Chicago Sun-Times, the Washington Post. A couple of years ago, The Athletic started a project where they were hiring freelancers to cover all WNBA teams. That project was immediately canceled. Why? Speculation on my part, but if I had to guess, there were two reasons. One, there wasn't enough fan interest. Two, The Athletic couldn't find enough writers willing to cover this dump. The Chicago Sun-Times, they have a beat reporter dedicated to the WNBA team in Chicago. If I remember correctly, I think the team is called the Chicago Shitfucks. Earlier this year, the reporter, he published an article questioning whether the dump in Chicago was processing enough trash to make the playoffs. Now, this is sports journalism 101. The entire month of October, local media in New Orleans, they were absolutely destroying Derek Carr and the Saints. The media was questioning whether Dennis Allen is qualified to be a head coach at the NFL level. He's not. They were questioning the contract given to Derek Carr. But to their credit, players and coaching staff in New Orleans, they handled the media criticism like professionals. They didn't ice out the media. They didn't lash out at the media. How did the dump in Chicago respond to media criticism? The players, they began targeting this reporter. One of the dump divers confronted this reporter face to face and asked, "Are you with us or against us?" There's an easy answer to that question. We're against you. Barbara Barker is a veteran sports columnist for Newsday. She's been covering the NBA for decades. Last month, She wasted her time covering the WNBA finals. Now, this is another complaint amongst players in the WNBA. They are complaining that the national media only shows up to cover big events. Well, no shit. The product on the court is so bad, there's no reason for them to show up. WNBA players complain that the media only shows up when there is a major story, like the immaculate return of Bob Griner. But Barbara Barker, she was willing to give the WNBA a chance. She wasted her time covering the WNBA finals. After the series was over with one team of anonymous players defeating another team of gender-confused players for exclusive access to the golden toilet throughout the offseason, Barbara Barker, she attended the press conference for the gender-confused losing team. Now, the losing team was from New York City. According to ESPN, the team from New York City, they have a group of superstar players referred to as the Big Three. Guess how many of these so-called superstars were available to the media after the game? None. Is it any wonder why players in this league remain anonymous? This was the biggest moment of your season. This was the moment when there were dozens of eyes on your product instead of the usual two. And you're refusing to speak to the media? You are refusing publicity in a league that is starved for publicity? But that's okay. That's okay. According to Nancy Armour at USA Today, WNBA players are not to blame for this. No. It's not their fault that they are refusing to speak to the media. It's not their fault that they are restricting media access throughout the season. Guess who Nancy Armour at USA Today blamed for this? Just take a wild guess. According to Nancy Armour, it's the NBA's fault. How? How exactly is the NBA to blame for the WNBA rejecting the media? Well, KC, it's the NBA's fault because no one in the NBA cares about the WNBA. No shit. I'll take it a step further. It's not just the NBA that doesn't care about the WNBA. No one in America cares about the WNBA. But let's just look at this from the NBA's perspective. Adam Silver is running a business. On one side of that business, you have 30 divisions, which they call teams. Those 30 divisions, they are extremely profitable. They are generating billions and billions of dollars every year in revenue for your company. Now, on the other side, you have a collection of dumps that have lost hundreds of millions of dollars in the last 27 years. Are you going to care about that side of the business? Are you going to focus your efforts on that side of the business, or are you going to focus on the division that is making you the most money? All the WNBA is to the NBA is a nice tax write-off. That is it. Now, I don't think we are there yet, but I hope we are starting to see the mainstream media turn on the WNBA. Enough is enough. This league is filled with whiners and complainers who want to blame everyone else for their constant failures. The WNBA is so pathetic, they are making me defend the mainstream media. This is one instance where I don't mind taking the side of the media. They are trying to give you the coverage that you asked for. They are trying to give you the publicity that you asked for, and you're rejecting them. If I was the editor at the Washington Post or the Chicago Sun-Times, I would solve this problem immediately. I would pull every reporter covering the WNBA and let this league fend for themselves. Like I've told you guys before, WNBA players are hastening their own demise. I hope the media will get the hell out of the way and let them do it. Let these dump divers run this league out of business. But give me your thoughts on this. WNBA players, they have been begging for increased media coverage. When they get what they asked for, they complain and they shut the media out. Are we starting to see the media turn on the WNBA? This article from the Washington Post, it was overwhelmingly negative. Last month, Barbara Barker from Newsday, she eviscerated the WNBA on social media. Could we see the mainstream media turn on this dump? Let me know. Sound off in the comments below. Like, subscribe, share the video. I appreciate every single one of you guys and your continued support. Follow me on Twitter at KC_BTL84, and I'll see you guys tomorrow.